week's Good Work Show. We hope you're having a great Sunday.
Yes, as opposed to any other day of the week.
But it is Sunday. That's
It
why I
is.
was like, hope you have a great Sunday.
So I was listening to this new podcast. It was actually really interesting. So I actually bought a podcast app. So
Not like Audible or something?
no, so it's Luminary. The new so we'll have to put the show on there because I think you can put it on there. You can put anything
for free?
on there. Yeah, but I bought it for like it's like not like Netflix, but like you have to buy the app to get access to other content.
Oh, so a one-time fee or is like
no,
every
it's
year?
monthly. It's monthly. And they were doing a Black Friday sale and you got a month free. So I was like, all right, I'll try this because Trevor Noah has a podcast on there. It's actually really funny.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I guess they record their shows on Sunday for their podcast. So the guy was like, happy Sunday. And Trevor Noah was like, well, what if somebody's listening to this on a Thursday? And the guy was like, well, then that day would be happy too. But I'm just trying to bring Sunday vibes.
So you're just trying to rip off what he said on the show? I feel like this.
A little bit.
So this is kind of a copycat.
Well, he's really successful.
Trevor Noah, yeah, but you said the other guy said it.
Well, he's on a show with Trevor Noah. He's doing better than I am. Not that you're not. Oh, that actually was really inadvertently shady. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Everybody in the room just realized. I didn't really. Oh, yeah, that was bad. But you have to acknowledge that,
Yeah.
We'll just keep going. We'll just keep moving.
I'll let you start off with that.
I don't really know what else.
I don't know how I feel about that comment.
Didn't you call me a nerd?
That's a little different.
Is it?
I feel like is.
I mean,
I feel like that. Yep.
did that hurt? That one hurt a little bit that you're not the same as Trevor Noah?
No, that is not what that's not.
Is that not what I said?
Mm-mm.
What is that? Oh, digging a hole? Yes.
Yeah.
The hole's deeper
Yeah.
and deeper. But you're the best.
Yep. Yep.
Still not good? I don't know how to recover from this one because, really, I feel like you might have said, I wasn't inadvertently being shady.
But everybody was like, Anyway, we have a good show for you today.
I mean, you're just going to sit over there and be a little... How long is this going to last?
I'm not sure. So...
9.
Yeah. 9.5
It's going to last 9.5 minutes.
We have a great guest on for you after the break. Jenny Jobson, who is the executive director for Midtown Assistance Center, is going to come on and talk about the work that they're doing to support working families, low-income working families in not only Midtown, but also in the surrounding areas of our city with emergency needs. And I will let her break that down for you. But I think we could probably all think back to a time where there was something that went on in our lives that might have been an emergency or an immediate need. And maybe we were able to get ourselves out of it. And for some of the families, and probably a lot of the families that they are serving, they may not be able to. And so
or have someone to call.
Or have someone to call. So that's where Midtown Assistance Center comes in and helps out. So we are going to definitely share the resource. And I think around this time, too, is a good opportunity to share that information because this is probably around the time where a lot of families will find themselves in those situations now that the weather is getting colder and maybe they don't have heat or maybe they don't have food. People are... it's the holiday season, so it's hustle and bustle, and for one reason or another, they may find themselves without X, Y, or Z. And so it's a good time to be sharing the resources and information about Midtown Assistance Center.
Yeah, and then we're going to hear from Tina Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
She's with Diamonds in the Rough, and she's going to come in and talk about the resources and programs that they have supporting girls and women here in Atlanta, folks that might need, again, some extra support. They might have found themselves some hardship. And they're just kind of out there to help people kind of work through and kind of come out to the other side. So, both organizations helping people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really trying to support them and make that path back to just even keel sometimes, just a little bit easier. Because sometimes it doesn't take much. And I think that's one of the things that will be, interesting to talk to Jenny about. It's not catastrophic things. I mean, I think a lot of times we think about stuff, folks who are just kind of going through their normal life that you think they're catastrophic things like my house burned down. And it's not necessarily that. It can be just something as minor as, oh, I got a job, but my job requires that I have, a particular piece of equipment. But if I can't get that equipment, I can't get the job. And then if I can't get the job, I can't. And then there's just the cascade effect. So be cool, talk to both of them.
That's right. So it is the holiday season. And I think we shared on a couple shows ago that, it is the giving season. It's still the giving season. And we have had lots of nonprofits on here, hundreds, in fact, that we encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to give, or give your time, give resources. I think a lot of people are probably doing that. And maybe think about some of the ones that you don't normally hear about. So we'll have two on the show today that you probably haven't heard of. Lots of people hear about, or they see the bell ringers out, or they see the Toys for Tots bins, which are all great. So you should definitely support those. But then think about some of those other nonprofits that might be doing really great work, like Midtown Assistance Center, for those immediate needs that you might be able to support. Or there's probably one that is a passion area for you, and there's always going to be a nonprofit that is working in that space. So
we're going to help people figure it out, because the next couple of weeks, we're going to be bringing back some of our favorite organizations. We're going to be taking a little break, but we're still going to bring you some information, new information at the top of every show. So make sure you tune in for that. But bringing back some guests that we've had on in the last few months to reintroduce them to you. If you heard them before, introduce you to them for the first time, to get to know some of these organizations again. That you might want to support in the coming weeks as we go into this overall season of giving.
That's right.
So look forward to that. We're not leaving you permanently. We'll be back. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to end.
Yes, but no, we'll be back with new shows, new interviews after the new year. But yes, we're going to bring back some of our favorites, and we tend to do this around the end of the year. Just because it gives us time to get a little break and get a bit ahead of bringing some nonprofits on. But then there's also really great ones that you might have missed in the last few weeks, few months. And so we, kind of take the time around the holidays to give a gift to those organizations and bring them back on the show, or rerun their interviews, so to speak. So we'd love for you to stick with us for the next couple of weeks and then join us in the new year and hear some fresh content. There's thousands of nonprofits across Atlanta, very rich nonprofit community, which, by the way, we should be really thankful for that we're in Metro Atlanta, because there are some cities that don't have as connected resource of nonprofits that are there to help. And I think we're really lucky in this area that we do have that, and they're so plentiful. But then there are some that could really just use a little bit of highlight. And that's what we do on the show. We talk about all good things that are happening in and around the city. Highlighting the good that makes Atlanta work is kind of the tagline we've been using. And so we are going to bring a fresh crop of some nonprofits on in the new year.
Yes, but we would be remiss if we did not talk to you about Goodwill of North Georgia.
That's right.
And the work that we're doing every day to help connect people with work right here in our community. Our goal is to put more than 25,000 people into jobs this year. And the only way that we're able to do that is with the generous support of our community. So, this time of year, folks are looking to make donations. It's our high time for folks coming in to make those donations. So we welcome them and encourage them and are happy to receive them. We make it easy for you this time of year. We set up different ways that folks can donate at our different donation centers to help move that traffic in and out. So we encourage you to do that. The other thing, so there's been like this hashtag Thriftmas. Have you seen this? So there was something on the Today Show today, I think. They're doing Secret Santa among the co-hosts, but they're doing a thrift Secret Santa.
Oh, okay.
So they put a $20 limit, but they have to do it at a thrift store. So there's kind of like this movement happening. We had a story on Fox 5 about Thriftmas and shopping. thinking about shopping at thrift stores for Christmas. So it could be like a twofer. You can get a good gift for somebody, but then also you're helping to support our mission as well. And with all the donations that are coming in right now, you might find some really great, well, you always find good stuff, but you might find some really great stuff. There'll be options.
Yeah. So definitely take advantage of that. Go Goodwilling this holiday season, whether that means donating, shopping, or helping to put your neighbors and friends to work by supporting Goodwill in a variety of ways. And yes, you can donate. And you can also donate financially, too. If you believe in the work that we're doing at Goodwill, you can absolutely do that through our website and make a donation. You can mail in a donation. You can bring in a donation. We will accept your financial donations, too. So we don't want you to think that you could only give material goods to Goodwill, but you can support us through financial gifts as well, and we will put them to work. And we like to tell people that one bag of donations equals 1 hour of job training. So if you think about that, you could probably fill a bag very easily with your closet or things around your kitchen, go through your garage. You're probably going to be taking some time off. You have time to clean up maybe before the in-laws come, or maybe to make room for all the extra Christmas stuff that you're going to have. Or if it's the Christmas stuff itself that you are changing the color of your tree or whatever it is, all of those things might make good donations for Goodwill. So we'd love for you to donate them to us, and all donations to Goodwill are tax deductible, by the way.
Yeah.
'Tis the season.
If that matters to you.
That's right. But anyway, we are excited to have Jenny Jobson join us after the break to talk about Midtown Assistance Center. And then Tina is going to join us for Diamonds in the Rough a little bit later on the show. Come back, stick with us. You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @Good Work Show.
Audience, welcome back to The Good Work Show. We are excited to have in the studio with us Jenny Jobson, who is the Executive Director of Midtown Assistance Center. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I definitely want to give a big shout out to my Leadership Atlanta colleague, Wendy, who suggested having you on the show, and want to know a little bit more about the organization. She told me a little bit, but for our audience and for those people who may not know what Midtown Assistance Center does, definitely give us the rundown and tell us about your mission.
Sure. We are, and I'm so grateful that Wendy made the connection. Yeah. She's one of our wonderful board members. MAC, Midtown Assistance Center, unfortunately, sometimes is one of, I think, Atlanta's best kept secrets. But we have been around for 33 years. We were founded in 1986 by a collaboration of churches in Midtown and downtown Atlanta that were all doing assistance to the community and to their neighbors in need. They found they were doing the same thing, and they decided instead of duplicating services, they would be more productive if they got together, pulled the resources, and that's how MAC was birthed in 1986. We were located in in-kind space at All Saints Episcopal Church in Midtown and moved to our current location in 1994. We've been housed at Atlanta First United Methodist since 1994, and we do emergency assistance for low-income working families in Atlanta. So those are families that are doing very important jobs in our community, in the service industry, teachers, people that are driving Uber and Lyft, they're Instacart shoppers, and they don't have a safety net if there's some type of an emergency. So that's when we step in. We help with utility bills, rent payments. We have a food pantry. We help with transportation, and we have new worker support program to help people with clothing for new jobs. You would think that it's such a small thing, but you have a requirement to have black pants or steel-toe work boots or non-slip shoes to get to and from work with a MARTA card, and those are things that we can help people with to kind of overcome that barrier. So that's the work we've been doing every day since 1986, and we're honored to be able to do that.
That's fantastic. I want to dig a little bit into this idea of emergency situations because I kind of want to help folks understand what we're talking about.
Sure.
So I know for me, an emergency situation, okay, it's not let me take that back. This was not an emergency, not in the way that you're talking about it. But I think this is the way that some folks may think about it. I came home, I don't know, last summer, and it was really hot in my house. because my air conditioner got broken, and then all of a sudden you had to write that huge check to get your air conditioner. You had that same
I did,
situation,
yeah.
yes. And it hurt to have to write that, but you could.
But you could.
So we're talking about, but you couldn't, but not for something that makes you comfortable in your home, but something that is necessary for your survival.
We're talking about basic necessities, utility payments, your basic utility services like electric, water, natural gas, your rent payments, putting food on the table, just basic things like that. I ask people sometimes just to imagine, like on your darkest day, if something horrible happened, and imagine who you could call that would come to your aid. And so you can come up usually with at least one person.
Right.
On my darkest day, I called 5 friends when my child had a pretty devastating medical diagnosis. I called 5 friends who mobilized this network of hundreds of people that fed my family for 5 months and covered needs that we didn't even realize we were going to have.
Right.
And so it made me look differently about how people experience emergency situations. For our clients, sometimes it could be a dead battery. It could be a missed MARTA bus. It could be a change in work hours. If you're trying to balance a part-time job or a job that's not permanent, you don't always have a set schedule. And you're sort of at the mercy of your employer to adjust your hours, yet your budget's not going to change. And so emergencies can be something very small but significant that could lead somebody on the downward spiral to homelessness.
And I imagine the cascade effect. I mean, if you have a dead battery,
can't get to work,
can't
take your kids to school or pick them up from school,
which even worse.
That's correct.
Yeah, because then you're dealing with, you could, I mean, what do you get? Like a 15-minute leeway in some schools before they call. And then now you're dealing with another set of things. And if my battery died, I could call Uber if I had to get someplace.
Or roadside assistance.
Or buy a new battery or do the, it would be inconvenient, but it wouldn't be devastating. And I think that's the thing that it's really important for people to kind of understand, that a really minor thing, changing your hours, like you said, changing your hours or something like that can create this spiral where things are, a lot of times you're just hanging, things are hanging together with like Scotch tape and a wish.
Right.
And if something happens,
trying to catch back up can be almost an impossible feat. It's just, things can be really tough for people. If you're working really hard jobs, I think there's a misconception too about people being homeless or being on the verge of homeless, and that those are people that aren't working. And I've been doing this for 21 years. These are some of the most hardworking people that you would ever meet. And you can be working a job. You can be working more than one job and not have a permanent place to lay your head every night. And so that's what we are really focused on, prevention. Some of the population that we serve with our new worker support program with transportation and clothing, they are people that are homeless and trying to get back into stability. But our focus really is prevention, is to keep people out of homelessness, because once a family becomes homeless, it could take 18 months or longer to get back into housing. And it becomes just this process of serial evictions. And everything is much more expensive once you have that eviction filing on your record. It's very expensive to live in Atlanta, which is an expensive city, and to live in poverty-stricken neighborhoods. Everything costs more money.
So, Jenny, how do your clients find you? Because you mentioned being the best kept secret, so
we don't want to be, but
I know. And it's so. How do folks find out if they are in those situations? And it's probably even tougher around this time of the year too, where there's so many things that are going on, and so many expenses are due, or maybe things are due at the end of the year. But then you want to do Christmas and holidays, and just with the hustle and bustle of the season. If folks are experiencing those emergencies, how do they find out about Midtown Assistance Center?
The United Way of Greater Atlanta has been a wonderful partner for us. They have the 211 hotline. It's a 24-hour referral hotline that people in need can dial 211. It's a free call. And you can talk to someone on the other end of the phone and tell them about your needs and what type of assistance you're looking for. And then they give you referrals based on where you live. And so we get quite a few referrals directly from United Way, but also word of mouth. People are wonderful to their neighbors, and when they find out about a good resource, they will share it with a neighbor in need. We've spent years developing relationships with landlords. So when a landlord has a great tenant, there are landlords that really want to work. They don't want, a lot of times they do not want to evict their clients or their tenants, and they'll contact us and share information. So it's really word of mouth. Our other nonprofit partners that we collaborate with throughout the city, we're all trying to do the same thing but cover as much of the city as possible.
Yeah.
So I think that's usually the best way is word of mouth. And
yeah. I wonder if people have, because at Midtown Assistance Center is a lot of people probably have the misconception that because you're in Midtown, that there aren't people who experience these issues.
Yes.
And I think by virtue of your organization even existing, you're kind of dispelling that myth in and of itself.
Yes. I mean, there are a lot of hardworking people that live in Midtown, that live in West Midtown. Those are not inexpensive areas to live.
Absolutely.
Which is why I don't live there.
And we had someone on the phone that called this morning who was making a wonderful salary up to 6 months ago. Lost his job, cannot find another job, and he has exhausted all resources. He's cashed out his 401k, and now he's looking at December and January. He doesn't have family, and he doesn't have resources to pay those bills. So that's who will step in. 33 years ago, Midtown and downtown looked a little bit differently. And so over the years, as Atlanta has changed and the demographics of those areas have changed, we have watched our clients, families that are low income, move outside and further from the city center. So our service area expands to Southwest Atlanta, to the west side. And we're always looking at areas to see where folks are moving, because now the areas that are southwest of the city are getting expensive as the Beltline's coming through. Affordable housing is going to be one of the biggest crises for our families. So a lot of them are moving further south, moving into Clayton County. So we're watching that. And we recently just opened up to 2 zip codes because we found that that's where people are headed, south and west of the city. So we're trying to follow them and still be able to catch them when they need our help.
Yeah. So the name should not fool you, audience.
No.
It shouldn't.
No, and I think it's that story that she just told is really interesting, because I think people have a perception, whatever it is, about who can benefit from your resources or who may need it, or cause I kind of feel like you may not think about somebody like that who would be like, okay, this is a resource that's for me. So there may be some folks out there listening that are like, oh, maybe this could be a resource that I could be tapping into and using because maybe my situation is similar.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not, just folks that are in more every situation when you get to this kind of dire, but everybody kind of gets to that point differently.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And most Americans don't have, $400 for an emergency?
Yeah.
Is that what or
some don't have $4.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Wow. So, Jenny, we want to dive into some more of what Midtown Assistance Center does. But I think before we take a break, we should tell folks how to reach you. So obviously 211 is a great resource, but if they want to learn more about Midtown Assistance Center so that they can refer folks to you, or if they want to make a donation, because obviously you have a lot of resources that are going to be needed to give to the clients. And so if they're like, wow, I want to donate, I want to help, how do they reach out to you so that they can do that?
The easiest way is through our website, which is midtownassistancectr.org. There's a donate button. There's also information on our qualifications for assistance, on our service area. There's the ability to send a needs help request, and we'll get an email with information about what your situation is. Even if you don't live within our service area, we know that people's time is very valuable. So we've spent a lot of time as a staff researching for resources in other counties and other zip codes. And so we do our best to make sure that we can share that information so that we're not telling someone to call another nonprofit that's not going to be able to assist them. So we spend a lot of time answering those needs help requests that come through our website and directing people to the best of our ability to the right resources based on where they live.
All right. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and hear more from Jenny Jobson of Midtown Assistance Center. You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, friends. Welcome back to the Good Work Show. We are being joined by Jenny Jobson, who is the Executive Director of Midtown Assistance Center, an organization that is supporting working families with those emergency needs that they might need. And Jenny, you mentioned before the break some of those. I mean, it's the basic necessities that probably most of us take for granted, but the fact that we have a car that runs, we've got transportation, we have foods, we have food, we have lights,
multiple foods.
Yes, we have clothing, we have a job that we can get to when we know what the hours are and things don't change around on us. And so those are some of the things that Midtown Assistance Center is helping those folks who are coming to you, your clients, with. But we want to know a little bit more. So before the break, we were talking about service area and how you and your staff were tracking because the demographics of Midtown are changing and tracking the clients and where they're moving to as our city changes.
Right.
And so talk to us a little bit more about that and how you're continuing to reach, and those clients are continuing to reach you, even though they may not be in what we traditionally have in our minds as Midtown.
As Midtown. Right. We are primarily serving low-income working families, and so some of them live in Midtown and downtown, but many of them now live, and we're zip code based, so Southeast Atlanta. If we were talking about neighborhoods, it could be Grant Park, Peoplestown, Lakewood is part of our service area, the West End, and West Side. Those are newer service areas to us.
And needs are great over there.
Yeah.
The area around the Georgia State Stadium, which is Little Pittsburgh, and Mechanicsville is part of our service area. We also go up to Buckhead. There are fewer places that are affordable in Buckhead,
Yes.
and there used to be.
Yep.
That is true.
But also Old Fourth Ward, Sweet Auburn area, those are areas that are quickly changing.
Yeah.
Yes.
The rents are getting to be astronomical, but those are typically the areas that we serve. Our zip code and service area is on our website. Sometimes throughout the year, we try to apply for funding that allows us to open up to other areas of the city. And we always try to, when we have those funds, we're so thankful for them, we open up to the areas that we know there are little to few resources. South Fulton is one of those areas that there's great need, and not as many organizations are able to work in that area.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of area.
I know. And the areas that you're mentioning are areas that I think we can all think about in the news and that kind of stuff that are changing, and that the areas are changing around the people, and the people are, adjusting or not adjusting to what's happening around them. And you find yourself, I mean, I just remember when I used to rent and kind of coming up at the end of your lease, like, oh gosh, what is my rent going to be? Because you never know.
Yeah,
like,
it increases the next year.
Every year.
Everything increases.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things that you kind of getting into being able to buy something and have that mortgage and that lockdown payment. I mean, is a huge hurdle, but it is one of those things that you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about my rent going up every year. But like when you get that notice in the mail and it was like, yeah, your rent was this and now it's this, that's a scary thing to have happen to you.
Yeah, it's terrifying for families, especially those that generations have lived in certain neighborhoods. Peoplestown and Mechanicsville, families have raised their children, have been raised there, and then they've raised their children and their grandchildren, and it's no longer affordable. So they're having to leave home and find new areas to live. So we're trying to keep up with where they're going so that we can continue to catch them when they need our assistance.
Yeah.
And I think it was really interesting what you were talking about, catching people before the situation becomes so dire, that it's easier to kind of maintain somebody than having to bring them back up to where they were.
It's so much easier. It's easier from a financial standpoint because it's less expensive. On the 3rd of the month, most people, their rent is due. And if the rent's not paid, there's usually a 10% late fee. And then by the 10th, most landlords will file a warrant. And so then you're into the court system.
Is it that fast?
It's that fast.
Yeah, Georgia's quick.
Georgia is really quick. Fulton County has one of the highest eviction filing rates.
I mean, I didn't pay rent sometimes, not because I couldn't, but because I would
forgot.
Yeah.
Like literally, especially like if the 3rd is on a Monday.
Right.
And the 1st is like Saturday, that kind of thing. And you're like, oh, yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah, Georgia's one of the fastest for eviction.
That's
They are.
crazy. I've never rented in the state of Georgia, so
Fulton,
Thankfully.
Fulton County has that reputation of
Yeah. Thankfully, because obviously I would have found myself in problem.
So it's much more expensive,
Yes.
but it's also mental health wise. I mean, it is so
Yes.
stressful
Yes.
to live with such uncertainty. It's not good for your health. It's not good for the children's health. I think one of the stats I recently read that really has stuck in my head, Southwest Atlanta is one of the areas I mentioned that we served, and they have a 13% increased mortality rate due to poverty and living with that type of a stress and uncertainty. So there's so many reasons to try to catch people before they get so far behind, and definitely to keep them out of the homeless process. It can be a nightmare. There's not enough spaces for people that are homeless. There are not enough spaces for families with children.
That's right.
Yeah.
When young men get to be a certain age, it's still a minor child, but a lot of shelters won't
Don't
take
take
them after
them.
over the
That's
age 12. It's heartbreaking to think that a family could be split. So that's why we really focus on trying to keep them in their home and stable and to sort of support them until they can get back on their feet.
Yeah. So tell us a success story or the story of someone that you've helped. Maybe it's a family, maybe it's an individual. You described in a situation in the first break, but give us an example of some of the folks that are coming through.
Sure. There was, one thing I think that I'm really proud of at MAC is that it is true emergency assistance. We answer about 1,300 phone calls per month. Our staff answers and does the screening. Every member of our staff does that. And so we can work so quickly. There was a woman about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving that called us, and she had been without a job for a couple of months and had gone through her savings. She had a child, and she had already gone through the court process. So once you go through the court process, you answer your warrant, and if you don't have the funds to settle with your landlord, then after 7 days, the landlord has the opportunity to contact the sheriff, and then the sheriff comes out and removes your possessions, and you've been physically evicted. And this woman was 1 day away from the sheriff coming out, and she was $500 short. And she called us on a Tuesday. We scheduled her on a Wednesday. We called her landlord to intervene, and she came in with all her documentation, left with a check, and it kept that mom and child out of the shelter system. Because we could work that quickly. On Tuesday of this week, it was Giving Tuesday, which is a big deal throughout the country, but in the state of Georgia. And we were receiving our PayPal donations throughout the day, and it was increased giving on that particular day. And a name came through, and it was a client that we had assisted in the spring of last year, making a really generous gift and paying it forward. And we never expect people to pay us back. We want them to tell the story that we can share with our donors so that people will continue to give to make our work possible. So we would never ask them to donate. But this particular person did, and our whole staff, we see the PayPals come through on our email, and it just made everybody's day because they recognized her and remembered her as a really kind and grateful person.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Those stories, I'm sure make it so that you and your team over at MAC it makes it all worth it.
It does.
Yeah.
It's such a privilege. I've been doing it for 21 years, and there's literally not been a day where I've gotten up and not wanted to go to work because the people that we serve make it really worthwhile.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So it is December. We know that everybody's doing, toy drives and that kind of stuff, but you guys are meeting emergency needs. So talk to us about how the community, because we're going to keep this giving spirit going. How can the community support you in your efforts and what you're doing right now?
I think remembering that giving is important, and it's important 12 months out of the year, but it's also wonderful to capture it during the holiday season. And the gifts are wonderful. We also have a Christmas program where we give gifts to families. But we also are mindful that when we're giving gifts to a family, that we're also covering their utilities. We're covering their rent. We're making sure that they're going to get food from our food pantry, because there would be nothing worse than a child to open presents on Christmas morning or during Hanukkah and they're in a cold home or with no lights. And there are a lot of people that have to live that way and make choices about food and heating their home or paying their rent or paying for their car. So just remembering that basic necessities are so important.
And those are not seasonal.
Right.
not
It's
seasonal.
all year long.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
mean,
year.
it's you want a warm house now and you need a cool house in the summer. It gets way too hot in Georgia to kind of be sitting someplace without.
That's true.
It does.
Yeah, so absolutely. So
And so they can make those donations directly to you. Obviously, in a lot of people will say, especially for nonprofits, the way that it's most easiest for you to turn that into the assistance that you need to give to the clients is probably financial gifts, but in-kind gifts too, or tell us about that.
We have a working men's clothes closet. It's only working men's just because of lack of space. But we realized in the late 90s that there were places for women and children to get clothing, but there were not many places for men to get work-appropriate clothing. The women, we like to change out our wardrobes and donate our clothes. Men tend to not change their wardrobes as often. So we are always looking for clothing. Many of the gentlemen that come to visit us are working service jobs. They're working construction, so jeans, khakis, shoes, belts, all those
Work
things are really
boots.
work boots. All those things are very important. Socks and underwear.
Okay,
Cool.
All right. So
and then food for the food pantry.
yes.
Food for the food pantry, yes.
Okay.
We leverage the food assistance. Food is very expensive, and so we try to tell families when they're getting food assistance from us, that is relieving a part of their grocery budget, and that keeps cash in their pocket that they can use to then pay for some other things.
All right. Well, really quickly, in our last few seconds, give us your website address again.
Sure. It's midtownassistancectr.org, and we're also on Facebook and Instagram. And
Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming by
you.
and the work that you and your team are doing. It is much needed, and unfortunately, the needs will probably continue to grow. But good thing is that we have folks like you and organizations like you to help out. So
thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, welcome back to The Good Work Show. We are excited because we have a special guest in with us today. We've got Tina Morgan, who is the CEO of Diamonds in the Rough. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we want to hear all about your organization. Diamonds in the Rough has been on, it's been
Like 3 years.
3 years. So it's been a long time since we heard from the organization. But we want you to, first off, tell us all about the organization and your mission.
Well, Diamonds in the Rough is an amazing organization, and we cater aid to the disadvantaged women and children in the inner city that is, struggling in financial aid and just those that have fell on hard times with raising their children, single parents, parents that just actually, just lost their jobs with sickness and whatever. But we come in and aid those families.
Nice.
That's cool. So give us a little bit of history about the organization. How did it get started and why?
The organization got started in 2006 because I had a heart for women and children because of the struggle of just being a single parent. And at this particular time, it was just hard for women to thrive and take care of children. So, it was just my heart. And I really prayed and asked the Lord, just give me some type of idea so I could be a part of helping and reaching out. And Diamonds in a Rough was birthed out through me watching even my mother, just women in general that was struggling and was looking for help and couldn't find any. So I just took it upon myself to just ask the Lord for just resources and how to, reach people that don't know how to reach resources. So.
Yeah. Wow. So you specifically in one of the areas focus on girls and helping young girls, and you mentioned single moms. Why did you decide to focus on that area? And you kind of hit on it a little bit, but seeing that women were having hard times, and obviously that affects their children, and maybe their young girls who are living in the home. So just kind of break that down a little bit.
Absolutely. like I said, Diamonds in the Rough was birthed out personally within myself. And then, like I said, with my mom being a single mother and just really fighting her way in education and being an entrepreneur. And at this particular time, it wasn't help. So I, just had a heart for women, more so women that was having, the hard time, the hardship in career-wise, jobs that wouldn't pay like they should pay. But anyway, but the children were being neglected, and that single mother trying to work and trying to provide. But also, we also do mentorship. So not only mentoring the children, and we have a life coaching program too. So we just offer life coaching and mentorship, which there is a difference between the both. Life coaching is following that individual in a long stance of their life. Mentoring is giving strategy and, and hoping that that person will follow the strategies, that they need. But so I mentor the youth, giving them strategies and helping them write out their goals. And so the adult women, I would follow them. And they would have a track record of being business women, finishing education, and monetary gifts. Sometimes I house the women to just give them that ledge. So it's been amazing. The reward is to seeing the progress and making that impact.
That's incredible. And this idea about life coaching, that's like such a buzzwordy kind of thing. Now everybody's got a life coach. Sometimes I feel like I need one. Just need like a parent.
Yes.
Well, you do have one of those.
I know, but like he
As
don't
an
care.
adult, yeah.
I mean, as an adult,
Yeah.
he's kind of like great.
Yeah.
But like a person that's really out there, like, okay, did you do this? Did
Yeah.
you do that?
That's
did you
it.
do this?
That's it.
Accountability coach.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Having real, because I'm a very, I can say I'm a very hard life coach. It's just like a way.
I don't want a hard life coach.
Well, listen.
I don't want nobody. Somebody's like, did you do this? Go cut a switch. Like, I don't want that.
Well, most of the time, that's what. If you're a procrastinator, you're gonna need that. You're gonna need that little nudge. Like, come on, we wrote down this the program, and you say, you want to be successful. You want to. Let's say dieting. You got the plan. I'll write up the plan, and I'll make sure you follow it. And we're going to see if you're losing inches and how motivated you are. So a life coach, I think everybody needs a life coach. I think
Probably.
Even our moms are a life coach. We our pastors are a life coach. So we have them and really don't actually, put the name on it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your GYMS program.
Oh, the gym is amazing. The gyms are let's say from 3 to 12. So we stopped it because we don't want the teenagers to kind of, mix in with the gyms program. But teaching them balance, teaching, as far as school, as far as their faith, and just being able to get in a group setting of their own age group. Embracing one another, their differences. I got one of the gyms are in gymnastics, and one of them is just in dance. And when they're being in their little zones, they can impact other little girls that are in that setting and encouraging them. Now, I went to one of the gyms programs where one of them was tumbling, and one of the little girls just broke down crying. I can't do it. She was a little chunky girl, and one of my gyms are kind of slender, and it was easy for her to do it. And one of the gyms went over there and said, "Listen, you can do it," because that's what our program helps to strengthen and to encourage each other in the gym program. And so when they go out, they can do the same in the secular world to their peers.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
So outside of the life coaching, what are the other programs that you have for the adult women that you're serving?
The adult women, it depends on, because it's levels. Just say if it's a woman that have had some tragedy in her life, I mentor counsel from that point. I listen to, where we need to start. And sometimes it's just love. Sometimes if that woman is broken to the point where she can't see her next step, that first step is to allow me to hear her out, and to let her know that I care before we can move in any other direction. And then just getting that woman comfortable with feeling that she don't have to be perfect. Because we paint this, women, not all women, but we paint this perfect picture of what a family is or what we should be in this society. And what I tell them, I say, listen, you're not an artist. So that, let's take the paintbrushes away and just live your life in the circle in which makes you happy. Because when you're happy and when you're strong, you can exuberate that. And so that's where we start. It depends on the level of the life of that individual.
Okay.
That's great, meeting people where they are, kind of giving them what they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you have an event coming up or a project that y'all are working on for this holiday season. So we want to make sure that we hit on that so that you can make an appeal directly to the people, and hopefully get some support for what you're looking for. So tell us all about that.
Absolutely. It's called a Diamonds Honorary Ball. The Diamonds Honorary Ball. And what that is we're honoring some women that have survived in this year, 2019, some real stuff, some tragedies, some failures, and some of them that, decided to give up, but they hung in there. So we want to honor these women. And we got some great sponsors. One of our sponsors was City Councilman Marcy Overstreet in the city of Atlanta. And then also, This Is It Catering. So we want to honor these women that have failed on hard times, but got up and didn't stay down. And like I say, all walks of life. Not only single parents, but also women that just fought back.
Yeah. And when is the event?
The event is December the 28th, and it's December 28th. It starts at 1:00 from 1 to 5, and we're just gonna have a great time.
Yeah. How do people find out and get tickets for the event?
Awesome. I'm gonna give you a number that you can call the organization. It's 678-760-2551, and you can ask to speak to me personally.
Wonderful.
I'm very hands-on.
All right. So good. And do you need volunteers? What does this organization need to continue to grow, to be prosperous? How can our listening audience help and support Diamonds in the Rough?
Also, we definitely need supporters. We have a website, Diamonds in, the letter N, the Rough, .org. Diamonds in the Rough, Women's Outreach.org. And we're on Instagram, Diamonds in the Rough, Women's Outreach. So you can reach us on, like I said, on Instagram. We definitely really need supporters, because I've just got a testimony of a young lady that just gave up, and we just rallying around her with love this Christmas season. So yeah, definitely we need supporters. We need donors that will help us help the community. Again, that is Diamonds in the Rough. This is the website, Diamonds in the Rough, Women's Outreach.org. Also, we're on Instagram, Diamonds in the Rough, Women's Outreach.
All right. Well, Tina, we appreciate you coming down to the show. Thank you so much for sharing information about the event that you have coming up. If anybody is interested, please go on to the website so that you can learn more, get tickets, and support the work that you're doing in trying to help women and young girls with the path of a successful and whole and fulfilling life. So thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @Good Work Show.